Did a first-term congresswoman just obliterate one of America's most powerful senators, in under 75 seconds? Millions were left speechless as JASMINE Crockett calmly took the mic, and dismantled Ted Cruz with facts so sharp, the entire room froze. No yelling. No drama. Just pure, controlled fire. From the moment she called out his Cancun escape to the silence that followed, this wasn't just political theater, it was a wake-up call to the nation. You won't believe what she said, and how Cruz reacted next. To watch the full story and get all the behind-the-scenes breakdowns, head over to Behind the Billions now. And if you want more powerful political moments like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because this is just the beginning. She took the mic, and America froze. Hold up, did she really just say that? That was the reaction across millions of screens when Congresswoman JASMINE Crockett took the mic during a heated congressional hearing and, in just over a minute, absolutely torched Senator Ted Cruz, leaving the room in stunned silence and the internet on fire. It all started like any other tense day on Capitol Hill. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle were locked in another drawn-out debate, this time over a high-stakes judiciary ethics reform bill. Cameras were rolling. C-SPAN was live. The usual back and forth, the rehearsed talking points, it was business as usual. Until it wasn't. As Senator Ted Cruz finished another one of his signature grandstanding speeches, defending conservative judges and accusing Democrats of political showmanship, JASMINE Crockett raised her hand. Now, here's the thing, Crockett isn't your average congresswoman quietly sitting in the background. She's bold, sharp, and unafraid to challenge the powerful, even if that person is one of the most well-known senators in America. As she adjusted the mic, no one expected much. Maybe a polite disagreement. Maybe a few words of rebuttal. But what happened next? It was electric. In just 75 seconds, Crockett launched into a calm, poised, but brutally honest takedown of Cruz's argument, and of his political hypocrisy. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. Every word was precise. Every point was deliberate. It was like watching a chess master move 5 steps ahead while everyone else was still figuring out where to place their pawns. She began with a line that made jaws drop instantly. With all due respect, Senator Cruz, let's not talk about performance when your record speaks louder than any stage ever could. That was the moment. You could almost feel the air leave the room. People leaned in. Phones started recording. Members of the hearing glanced at each other like they knew they were witnessing something major. And she wasn't done. Crockett followed up with one of the boldest political callouts of the year, bringing up Cruz's controversial Cancun trip during Texas's deadly winter storm, a move that even conservatives had previously criticized as tone-deaf and selfish. She said, "While families were freezing in the dark, you were tweeting from a beach in Mexico. But now, you're suddenly concerned about accountability?" Boom. This wasn't just a response. It was a statement. A moment that stripped away political titles and got to the core of public frustration. Crockett didn't attack for the sake of spectacle, she exposed what many Americans already felt, that too often, power is used for performance instead of progress. In less than 2 minutes, she changed the tone of the hearing, and possibly her political future. The reaction? Instant. Unstoppable. And it had only just begun. The context, tension boiling in Washington. To fully understand why JASMINE Crockett's viral takedown of Ted Cruz shook America, we need to zoom out for a moment, and look at the political pressure cooker that set the stage. Washington, D.C. has been on edge for months. Tensions between Democrats and Republicans have reached boiling point, especially around one central issue, judicial accountability. What's that, you ask? It's about the people in black robes, the judges, including those in the Supreme Court, being held to the same ethical standards as other branches of government. Recently, there have been headlines exposing alleged luxury gifts, secret trips, and shady financial connections involving some high-profile judges. And people across the country are asking, why isn't anyone being held accountable? So, the Democrats put forth a bill, a reform plan to set strict ethics rules for federal judges. Transparency. Mandatory disclosures. Penalties for corruption. It was a bold move to bring trust back into a system that many Americans feel is rigged for the rich and powerful. But not everyone was on board. Enter Senator Ted Cruz. At the committee hearing, Cruz came out swinging. He called the reform bill a stunt, accusing Democrats of weaponizing the judiciary. He even claimed the hearing itself was nothing but performative theater for the cameras. According to him, it wasn't about ethics, it was about scoring political points. Now remember, this is the same Ted Cruz who's made headlines over and over again for his own controversial behavior, including that now infamous trip to Cancun during Texas 2021 deep freeze. But at the hearing, Cruz didn't back down. He defended the judges, attacked the bill, and made it sound like he was the victim of unfair political attacks. His comments were fiery, calculated, and, just like always, made for headlines. But then something unexpected happened. JASMINE Crockett, one of the newer and lesser-known members of Congress at the time, asked for time to speak. What many thought would be a routine statement turned into something extraordinary. Why? Because Crockett wasn't just responding to the bill, she was responding directly to Cruz. She had heard enough of the double standards. Enough of the showmanship. Enough of the speeches pretending to be about truth while conveniently ignoring the facts. And in that moment, in front of live cameras, she did something that most politicians don't dare to do. She called out the hypocrisy to his face, without raising her voice, without personal insults, and without flinching. But let's be clear, this wasn't just about one argument or one senator. It was about something much bigger, the public's growing frustration with politicians who say one thing and do another. The people are tired. Tired of words. Tired of excuses. Tired of watching the powerful escape accountability while everyday Americans face consequences. That's the backdrop. That's the fire burning underneath the surface. And it was about to explode, thanks to one congresswoman, one microphone, and one unforgettable moment. The 75-second takedown. It lasted just over a minute. But the impact? Instant and unforgettable. Congresswoman JASMINE Crockett didn't shout. She didn't slam her fist or wave papers in the air. She didn't need to. With a calm, clear voice and piercing focus, she delivered one of the most searing and effective political callouts in recent memory. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. Let's break it down. As Ted Cruz leaned back after delivering his usual dramatic monologue, Crockett politely asked for the floor. There were no loud murmurs or obvious tension, yet. But once she opened her mouth, the temperature in the room changed instantly. She began with a line that seemed almost respectful, until the meaning hit. With all due respect, Senator Cruz, let's not talk about performance when your record speaks louder than any stage ever could. A few people in the room raised their eyebrows. But Crockett was just getting started. She continued, referencing Cruz's now infamous trip to Cancun in 2021, when a deadly winter storm knocked out power across Texas. Millions of people were freezing. Dozens lost their lives. And while Texans suffered, Cruz was boarding a plane to a luxury resort in Mexico. Crockett said, "When my constituents were boiling snow to survive, you were in the sun. And yet you sit here pretending to be the champion of ethics and leadership?" Boom. No yelling. No insults. Just facts, and a tone that made it crystal clear she wasn't looking for applause. She was looking for truth. She went on to call out what she described as Cruz's selective outrage, highlighting how he often speaks loudly about certain issues when it serves his party but stays silent when it comes to real accountability, especially from within his own ranks. And then came the line that sealed it, a perfect blend of honesty and sting. If we're going to talk about accountability, let's start with the man who ran from the cold. Those words weren't just aimed at Ted Cruz. They were aimed at every politician who has forgotten the people who elected them. By the time she finished, you could hear the silence. People in the room were stunned. Even some Republican members shifted uncomfortably. No one interrupted her. No one tried to push back in real time. Because there was nothing to push back on. The facts spoke for themselves, and Crockett had just painted a picture so sharp, it was impossible to ignore. And while it only lasted 75 seconds, those words triggered a reaction that would spread across every platform, from newsrooms to living rooms, Twitter threads to YouTube comments. Crockett didn't just challenge a senator. She sent a message: you can't hide behind your title. Not anymore. America reacts, millions watch in awe. By the time JASMINE Crockett sat back in her seat, the internet was already on fire. Within minutes of her 75-second takedown of Senator Ted Cruz, someone clipped the footage and posted it on Twitter. Within the next hour, #Crockett vs. Cruz was trending nationwide. People weren't just sharing the video, they were replaying it, dissecting it, and praising the Congresswoman for saying what so many Americans had long felt, that some politicians love the spotlight more than they love the truth. The clip quickly gained traction, amassing over 1 million views in just a few hours. TikTok creators started adding music, reaction faces, and split screens. One video showed a young woman watching Crockett's speech, dropping her jaw and yelling, "She ate and left no crumbs." That reaction video alone gained over 500,000 likes. Even people who had never heard of JASMINE Crockett before were suddenly following her. On Instagram, political influencers posted her photo with the caption, "Remember this name. She's not playing." And over on YouTube, political commentary channels rushed to break down the moment. Some titled their videos, "Crockett Bodybags Cruz in 75 Seconds, Congresswoman Goes Savage," and "This is How You Hold Power Accountable." These videos racked up millions of views combined within 48 hours. But what made this moment really stand out? It wasn't just that Crockett delivered a viral moment. It was that she did it with clarity, facts, and composure. In an age where viral clips often rely on shouting matches and insult wars, her approach felt fresh and powerful. Late-night shows picked up the story, too. On The Daily Show, a guest host joked, "Ted Cruz went to Cancun to escape the cold, and JASMINE Crockett just gave him a heat wave he didn't see coming." Even some mainstream outlets that are usually neutral were forced to acknowledge the intensity and effectiveness of Crockett's words. Headlines read, "Freshman Congresswoman Stuns Senate with Blistering Response. 75 Seconds That May Define JASMINE Crockett's Career. Ted Cruz Meets His Match." What made this even more interesting was the generational divide in the response. Young voters were particularly energized. On platforms like Reddit and Discord, people in their teens and 20s praised Crockett for keeping it real and calling out political gamesmanship. Many users posted comments like, "She's exactly what we need, smart, fearless, and unapologetically real." Meanwhile, older viewers, those who usually tune in to C-SPAN for dry legislative hearings, were also impressed. They noted her professionalism and control, pointing out how she didn't resort to personal insults, yet hit harder than most ever could. Ted Cruz tried to downplay the moment, tweeting the next day, "Grandstanding doesn't fix broken systems. I'll continue fighting for Texas." But by then, the internet had already made its decision. JASMINE Crockett didn't just win an argument. She won the moment. The aftermath: a political star is born. One viral moment doesn't usually change the course of politics, but this one just might. After JASMINE Crockett's 75-second mic drop moment lit up social media and grabbed national headlines, something incredible began to happen. She wasn't just trending, she was transforming. Suddenly, Crockett wasn't just the Congresswoman who clapped back at Ted Cruz. She became a symbol of what a new generation of leadership looks like: sharp, informed, and unafraid to speak uncomfortable truths, no matter who's sitting across the aisle. Let's be clear, this moment didn't happen in a vacuum. Crockett, a civil rights attorney by background, has been passionate about justice and equity long before cameras ever started rolling. But this showdown put her on a national radar in a way few freshman representatives ever achieve. By the end of the week, Crockett's team reported a major spike in campaign donations, with supporters pouring in from all over the country, even from states outside her district. Her Twitter following doubled. Her inbox flooded with invites to appear on major networks, podcasts, college panels, and more. Political analysts began asking, "Is this the future face of the Democratic Party?" In response, Crockett stayed grounded. In a CNN interview days later, she said, "This isn't about going viral. It's about holding people accountable, no matter their title. That's what the people sent me here to do." Meanwhile, for Senator Ted Cruz, the story took a different turn. While he's no stranger to criticism, the sheer volume and unity of public response this time hit differently. Even some of his usual allies stayed quiet, while conservative commentators scrambled to defend him, claiming the whole exchange was a Democrat stunt. But the internet doesn't forget. Clips of Crockett's remarks continue to circulate, often with new edits, subtitles, and voiceovers. In digital terms, this wasn't just a trend. It was a moment burned into the timeline of modern politics. So, what's next? For Jasmine Crockett, the sky's the limit. Political insiders are already buzzing about her as a future Senate candidate, possibly even a VP pick someday if her momentum continues. And with Gen Z and millennials demanding real talk, real action, and real change, leaders like her are exactly what they're looking for. But this isn't just a Cinderella story. It's a wake-up call to the entire political system. The old rules, where polished speeches and partisan lines win the day, are fading fast. In their place, truth-tellers who speak directly to the people, not just party donors. In just 75 seconds, Jasmine Crockett didn't just challenge Ted Cruz. She challenged the status quo. And from the looks of it, America was ready to listen.